Hi, it's a rare day off, and tonight we're going to a potluck. I love potlucks. I get totally inspired by everybody's great recipes, and I don't have to deal with the whole restaurant thing of is it vegan, is the broth vegan. We all know what everybody's bringing, we all share our recipes, and we have a great time, and it's really social, and we hang out, and it's a big party. My contribution to the party is chocolate chip cookies, and these babies are the best you'll ever taste. I know that sounds terrible, but it's true. So hang out with me and I'll show you how I made them. Okay, so the first step in the cookies is an important one. You need to preheat your oven. Mine's going to come to 350, and you want to have your baking sheets lined with parchment. I know a lot of people are using those Silpat sheets, the silicone sheets. I just don't use them. I find the bottoms of my cookies don't brown really well. But if you like them, use them. But you really want to line your sheets because it prevents the cookies from burning, and it also gives you a nice brown, crispy bottom. This is the unbleached parchment, so I'm not hurting the universe either. Okay, to begin the cookies, I use Earth Balance as my fat, the solid baking sticks. Now, some people like to use oil, but I find that the cookies come out oily tasting. So by using this solid butter spread, I get a buttery cookie, which is really kind of nice. So that's what I do. Into that will go a really generous half cup of brown rice syrup. This is Suzanne's Specialties, my favorite, as many of you know. And this is the maple flavored one, which means that it was manufactured with fenugreek to give it the flavor of maple. And it kind of ups your sweetness just a little bit. So we're also going to add to this a nice generous teaspoon of vanilla. Now I use the vanilla that doesn't have alcohol, so you get that really yummy vanilla taste. So that's what we're going to do. And the next step, you take a hand beater. Now you can also use a whisk, but a hand beater will really do the job. You want to get in here and you want to whip this just like you used to in conventional recipes. Beat butter and sugar. And you're going to do this until it's creamy. Okay, see how creamy this got? Sort of whippy looking? That's the texture you want. That takes about 2 minutes of whipping with the hand mixer. And if you're whisking, it's going to take a little longer. Okay, so now we're going to add our dry ingredients to this. I don't usually measure, but I'm kind of measuring for this one. We're going to use 1.25 cups of whole wheat pastry flour. Okay, so I only sort of measure, but you know, that's about 1/4 cup. And then we're going to add to that another 1/4 cup of semolina flour, which will lighten things up and actually makes the cookies crispy. When I first made these, I used a whole 1/2 cup of semolina flour, and to me they got too thin and too cracker-like, and that little 1/4 cup difference has made all the difference in the world. So there you go. So now we're going to add about 1/8 teaspoon of sea salt. Just enough to make things sweet. You don't need a lot, you don't want salty cookies. And then some ground cinnamon. This is vitamin spice cinnamon, which will also give you some antioxidants. And the cinnamon just makes the cookies taste chocolate chippy. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, you do. Okay. Now, the next ingredient is key. You want to use a 1/2 teaspoon of baking soda. This will give the cookies a little bit of lift, but also contribute to their crispiness. If you like your cookies cakier, then add a teaspoon of baking powder and a 1/2 teaspoon of baking soda, and you'll get that sort of cakey cookie. But Robert really likes them crispy, so crispy is the way we go. Okay, that's everything for our dry ingredients. Now you just slowly go in here and mix, kind of drawing the Earth Balance and sweetener up from the bottom to create what's called a stiff cookie dough. And you just keep mixing this until it comes together. Don't add water, don't add almond milk, hang in there, and you see it gathers into a ball, and it's really beautiful. When you're about 90% there, like this, you can stop mixing, because now you have to get your nuts and your chocolate ready to put in. Now you can use chocolate chips, but my experience in these cookies is if you get a dark chocolate bar and chop it into chunks, the cookies are just phenomenal. So, I'm going to get the chocolate ready first. When I chop chocolate for my cookies, what I do is I chop it right on the paper that the chocolates come in, because then I can just pick it up and dump it into the bowl. And I don't lose any of my precious little chocolate bits on the cutting board. So you kind of cut it in big chunks, and you just really work your knife through it to create nice bite-sized pieces. You don't want great big chunks because then it'll melt part of the cookie and have like a weird texture. So this is the texture you're looking for on your chocolate chunks. And then you just pick your paper up, right in, and you haven't lost a drop of chocolate. And that's the key. Next, pecans. You may use any nuts you like. I really love pecans in these because they're a little rich, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. So you're just going to coarsely chop these. You can use a knife like this, or you can use, this is a mezzaluna. And a mezzaluna is a half-moon knife that's used very often in Italian cooking. A lot of people like them for herbs and spices, but it also helps to give me a nice irregular chop to the nuts. But you can just use a knife as well. And you just kind of keep gathering them together and chop. You want to make sure you don't have any huge pieces. That's about right. Then you just pick them up. This is about a 1/2 to 2/3 cup of the nuts. Now you're going to do what's called folding, which means you pull the batter up from the bottom so that you draw the nuts and the chocolate down into it. And by folding, which is literally this motion, by doing that, what you create is an atmosphere where the nuts and the chocolate get incorporated through the batter and you have a nice even mix of them throughout your cookies. Now, because we used earth balance, which is sort of a solid, almost a butter-like texture, we're going to put this in the fridge for 10 minutes before we actually form the cookies so that they keep their shape on the board. So we're going to put this in the fridge, and I'll see you in 10 minutes. Okay, so we're ready to put the batter onto the sheets and bake them. Now you need to wet your fingers in cold water and the spoon. And you're going to kind of go back and wet your fingers now and then so the dough doesn't stick. And you're going to take a good hearty teaspoon of batter, like about that, okay? It's a little more than a teaspoon. You're going to put it onto the sheet, and with wet fingers, you're just going to kind of press it into place, okay? Then you'll do this, you'll probably get on a standard cookie sheet about 3 cookies across and 4 down, so a dozen per sheet. And you'll do about 3 sheets for this amount of batter. And what you need is you need to have this kind of space between them so that as they spread, you don't end up with one big cookie on the sheet, which may not be bad, but if you want to take them somewhere or have people eat cookies, you need to give them some space to spread. So after we get the sheets filled, they'll go into the oven and bake for exactly 18 minutes. When you take them out, they'll still feel a little soft. You'll cool them for 1 to 2 minutes on the sheet and then transfer them to a wire rack or just slip the parchment onto your counter and let them cool. And they get crispy, perfectly crispy, and you will love them. So I'll see you in 18 minutes when they come out of the oven. So you see, this is how they go into the oven, and this is how they come out. So they get almost double their size, so it's really important that you do that spread room. And see how the edges browned a little bit? These are perfect. 2 more trays to go, and then we're off to the potluck. Okay, I'm off to the potluck. I hope you have a fun Saturday night.